The Crusaders formed in Houston, or where did they form?
They formed in Houston. So they
Yeah.
formed basically in high school. The Roxy is legendary.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, for so many reasons. My dad performed there. They did a live recording there.
Oh, wow.
And Elton John was in the audience. Elton John walked up on the tables and got on stage and started jamming with them. There was another famous female actor, I think it was Faye Dunaway, but my mother can't quite recall. And then I was there and we sold out that place, Roxy and Gazzari's. Do you remember Gazzari's?
Yeah.
I actually dated one of those girls who were on the side, the Gazzari girls. The evolution of music can be found in this space called Holican.io, which is my company, and providing space for jazz, funk, and blues, and people who are toying with it and understanding it. It's necessary. We need it for the future generation.
Hey, welcome to 90who10. I'm your host, Jessica Entner, and my co-host,
Dan Eisenstein.
And today we have a legendary Beverly Hills alumni, bass player, audio engineer, mixer, producer, and son of legendary Joe Sample. Nick Sample's in the house. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I am
do
in
that
Michigan,
5 times.
and it's cold here.
Do you live in Michigan?
Yes, we we live in Detroit, and actually Bloomfield Hills to be more exact. And get this.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, yes, I love
my
this.
Kids are high school. The initials of their high school is BHHS.
That's hysterical.
Bloomfield Hills High School.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of fun.
I love that. So you chalked it up and left LA. How's that feel?
So are you guys in LA?
Yeah.
We are. I have dreams and aspirations of chucking it all.
I'm actually in the Roxy right now, Nick.
Say that again?
I'm in the Roxy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I manage the Roxy. So I'm doing this from my office in the Roxy, but I thought you might get a kick out of that just because.
My Lord. I mean, the Roxy is legendary.
Oh, yeah.
For so many reasons. My dad performed there. They did a live recording there.
Oh, wow.
And Elton John was in the audience. Elton John walked up on the tables and got on stage and started jamming with them. There was another famous female actor, I think it was Faye Dunaway, but my mother can't quite recall, but she's telling me this fun story. And then I was there as my high school band, Vertical Smile.
Mm-hmm.
And we sold out that place, Roxy and Gazzari's. Do you remember Gazzari's?
Yeah.
I actually dated one of those girls who were on the side, the Gazzari girls.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't remember her name. I'm sorry. I don't remember her name. But anyway, yeah, so my wife and I met in LA. We left LA after our 2 kids were born in 2012 to New York City. And then we spent 7 years in Brooklyn. My wife got a job in New York. That's why we went there. And then we went to Berlin, Germany for 6 months, thinking we were going to stay there for a long time. But the school situation was difficult for our young kids.
Yeah.
Pre-tweens, when you don't know German, they put you in this sort of welcome class.
Mm-hmm.
Where they just you sit there and draw like ducks and trucks and just sort of, what they want to do is see when the child can sort of articulate and hear the German language and the sounds. So they don't speak any English with you unless they really have to. And then the moment the child or the student goes, Schweiwasser, or anything that sounds German, they're like, all right, you can go to the next level, because it's such a difficult language to put under your tongue.
Yeah.
And then my daughter was freaking out because she loves to learn. So we can't live here. So we moved to Sweden, Stockholm.
Yeah.
I'm half Swedish.
Wow.
My father's Creole, he's Joe Sample. My mother's Swedish from Stockholm. So, and everyone speaks English in Sweden
Yeah.
better than we do. So it made sense to go there.
Did you speak
Yeah.
Swedish growing up?
I did, sort of broken book Swedish,
Yeah.
and then I lived there when I was 15. So I did my sophomore year of high school in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Came back.
I'm like, why did you come back to the US? Sweden's one of the best places I know the winters are tough. I've been to Sweden. It's gorgeous, but the winters are.
They were fine.
Dark.
We can handle it.
Yeah.
I've done it. I lived in Mammoth Lakes growing up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I'm hearing myself talking, it's like, wow, I've lived in a lot of places.
Yeah.
No, Sweden, listen, the migration, they have a serious immigration issue there.
Yeah.
And they just kept refusing my application. So we eventually just had to leave. So we spent 4 years in Sweden and building this new company that I have. And now we're in Detroit. My wife was raised, not born, but she's raised in Detroit. And her parents are still here. And her father, he's nearing his transition. And it just made sense that we come and spend a little time with Nana and Baba, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we actually like it. New York was just too expensive to move back to. It doesn't make sense. LA, well, we love LA, but it just kind of sort of slipped a bit. And then and obviously because of the parent situation here in Michigan, this was an easy sort of reinsertion into the US. And it's in the center. Detroit has an international airport, so I could fly everywhere pretty easily,
Yeah. And it's beautiful. There's tons of lakes, it's like.
It's gorgeous here. I mean,
it's gorgeous out there.
The greenery is lovely. And then, it's Detroit. There's some cool history out here.
And when you were a kid, you grew up in Beverly Hills and then moved to Mammoth and then back to LA or how?
Well, when I was younger, so my parents built a house in 74. I'm born in 71. And so it was like a second home. And then once I was in elementary school, we would take the second semester in summer up in Mammoth. So we did that for 4 years. But of course, education started slipping because I wasn't, in like the one full year program. So we had to make a decision to stay in LA.
You guys were in the Knolls in Mammoth?
Yeah, we were, well, I know of them, but we were near, it was called Chair 15 at the time. It's at the top of Meridian.
Yeah. And your dad started the jazz festival up there.
He didn't necessarily start it, but he was a big time, part of it and influence of it. And most of the time when he would perform, it was to, all donation proceeds will go to the ski patrol.
Yeah.
They always need new gear and updated gear and stuff like that. So
I was reading a little bit about it, and I guess Street Life, which is a song that everybody knows, it was somehow he was skiing one day in Mammoth, and it was just like crazy busy on the mountain, and he came up, that kind of started the idea for that. Is that right?
Yeah, he just thought, if you've been skiing, it's just crisscrossing all over the place. It looks like it's amazing that no one hits each other. And he just came up with that metaphor, like this is like street life. It's wild. And then he wrote, Mammoth was a muse for him. He would write up there. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
both Dan and I spent a lot of time up there for sure.
So my dad was actually Joe's business manager. And so my dad and Joe actually spent a lot of time up in Mammoth together.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad loved your mom. I mean, I remember one time we ran into your mom at the Santa Palm car wash, me and my dad. And my dad was very, very fond of your mom. Absolutely loved her. Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
My mother's the type of person, she's a socialite.
Yeah.
But she's the type of person who will remember your children's names, the grandkids' names, the birthdays, right? So everyone loves that. When someone
definitely tell your mom that I say hello. Bob Eisenstein's son says hello.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I just spoke to her
let's
earlier.
get into that. Like,
Yeah.
who were your parents? Because I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know all of the history. So,
Well, I'll start
what's
with
the
my mom.
background? Yeah.
My mom, born and raised in Sweden, full blonde, like total stereotype Swede, and like true blood Swede, right? There's no mix because I'm the full mutt here. But she was always into the new style. Like she was always the first one into what was hip. And okay, she's born in 41, so jazz was the popular music then. And in early 60s, I don't have that timeline exactly, but she wanted to go to the US. She went to Los Angeles. She connected, that sort of au pair where you work for a family and they give you a place and you learn English and stuff like that. Um, and then she somehow connected with a record company, which is right there. It's now a Target, but it was called Fedco on
Oh,
Rodeo,
yeah.
Yannica.
I live right near there.
Oh,
I know
yeah?
exactly where the Fedco is. It's a
Yeah.
Target now, but yeah, I used to go to that Fedco.
And the Seas
It got-
Candy's still there too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Seas is still there. Mhm.
Right? So,
And it's now called Obama Boulevard, just in case you
oh,
weren't
is it
aware
really?
that they
Yeah.
changed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, right on. That's cool. The office was off of Rodeo somewhere, heading west. And it was a small office. She knew how to type, so she was at those days they call him a secretary, and she was listening to all the hip jazz. And she's blonde, she's young, she's in Hollywood, and she's gorgeous. And so she and her friend go to see Horace Silver, who wrote "Song for My Father," at some club. I want to say it's the It Club, but I don't think it was the It Club. And um, they're there. And of course, every guy in this club is like, whoa, look at these blonde bombshells. They're just trying to get as close as possible. Horace finishes his set, and some dude walks up to the table, is like, hey, ladies, what's up? Introduces himself. And they were like, no, please, we don't want to be bothered. Full like Swedish English accents, no, thank you. That was a horrible one. I was like an Asian one. But and he was like, oh, come on, really pressing them. And he goes, well, if you're going to meet someone here, who do you want to meet? My mom just points at this guy at the end of the bar, which happens to be my father.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's like, oh, I know him. That's Joe Sample. He's a piano player. She was like, like, what are you doing? And of course, without any tact, he just, Joe, come on over here. And they meet.
I love it.
And they stay connected. And she had to go back to Sweden, and all of a sudden they were doing all these. The reason why I'm telling this story is because I spoke with my mother earlier today. They were pen pals. So my dad was sending letters to her all the time whenever he would go like on the road or, perform somewhere. And these old, like literal pen pals, old school letters.
That's
3
awesome.
pages long, right? And she
The
still
art
has
of
it.
writing. Yeah.
It's like, it's something we've lost,
I have a trunk of my dad's letters, my garage, that somehow I ended up with, and it is full. And then I have another one that is my mom's that is full of letters, because that was how people communicated. It's such an awesome thing to see.
What an awesome thing. And so so my mom gave me like half a stack, and she saved all of them, right?
That's great.
And I've been hesitant to read them because it's like, that's an intimate letter, right? Like, I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a couple that I
I love it. I love it. I
Now,
love it.
mind you, that was back, then I think our parents weren't so brash in their language,
Yeah, but even still, but the undertone was there. The undertone was probably there, and
the undertone was
eloquent.
probably there. So
Yeah.
I've hesitated, and then today my mom brings up, I'm working on the autobiography for Joe Sample, and because he was unable to finish it, I've been interviewing friends, peers, colleagues, and family to sort of put this book together. and she said, "Hey, I just come across all those, letters I had in storage, and I think you could use it for the book," because he would always discuss whatever it was he was working on, whether it was in the studio or whether he was on the road and who he was on the road with. So it's like a great sort of chronological timeline to go through. So anyway, that's the most recent bit of information, which I thought it was very clever. My mom came up with that. So she's
Yeah.
Swedish. My dad's Creole.
Yeah.
North.
And so when they met, they were back and forth.
They were
She
back and
moved back.
and she you know this is also in the 60s, right? So there's still a lot of issues with segregation and whatnot, and them hanging out or spending any time together, they had to kind of, well, when my father would pick her up from the apartment, she lived over on Detroit near like Wilshire.
I know exactly. I lived over there too.
Yeah, and
I
all
lived
those
on Ridgely.
it's the same buildings, right?
Yeah.
He would have to drive up or like halfway down the block under a tree to not be seen by the landlord, so mom could keep her apartment, because otherwise it would have been a real issue. So
God,
some
so
little things like
crazy.
Yeah. And your dad, when they met, is he had he already started to have a little success, or was that come a little bit later?
Yeah, so they were the Jazz Crusaders. They were
Right.
recognized, and prior to that, they were recognized as a local band, like playing whatever the hip clubs were, like nightlife. They also played in Vegas, and they were the house band for Johnny Guitar Watson. He was busy. They were, they were the hot Southern funk soul band, and could swing really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And your dad was also a big session player.
Yeah, going through this book or this autobiography and interviewing people, I've come to learn, your parents don't tell you everything, because they also don't think about everything. And so my dad's mother was very adamant in making sure, no, we'll do everything for you. You just keep practicing. We know this is your love. And so he was always playing the piano. He ended up graduating high school early. He graduated after sophomore year. But what I learned was that he had a xylophone. The xylophone is sort of like a wood percussive piano setup, and they had it in the back porch. And people were always at the Samples house, because Grandma, Agatha is her name, or they called her Gat. She was always cooking. So everyone would come over.
Oh, that's awesome.
To eat. And then they would go in the backyard. They had the big pecan tree, which was massive, which provided a lot of shade, so the kids could play in the backyard. And Dad would be, on the xylophone, jamming to them playing. Like, it was a really bizarre moment, right? For the mind synapses to sort of capture kids playing in that Houston, Texas heat, and just learning music, right? It's a really wild connection there. So
he's like, I can see him like scoring.
He's like scoring the play on, right?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's amazing.
But what I'm getting at is that he was a great student of music. So he really learned how to read efficiently, write, manuscript, etc. So his skills in the studio were sought after, because he was quick. Like, he was instant player. And, he would tell me one of their biggest, you go into a big session and it could be a full orchestra. The test was to never open up the manuscript before and just get like a little quick rehearsal, right? You just had to sit there and wait until the conductor put the hand up, and then you open it and boom, you go, right? So that's like that instant gratification and instant inspiration from each player. So that's why a lot of this music is so powerful, because it's like this ball of energy from everyone that's in the room. It's much more palpable than just someone at home doing every instrument.
Yeah.
cutting back and forth or even copy paste everything. It's a different attachment there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, it's heavy stuff. And your dad read. I mean, so when you're saying it, so sheet music, reading the sheet music. I mean,
Yeah, sheet
so
music. He was very organized. He was just a great student of music. So he was sharp.
So was he classically trained? Did he go to school for that?
He did. He went to TSU where music was his major.
Yeah.
Um, and he played actually clarinet in the TSU marching band. He didn't like it.
So he was a multi-instrumentalist. He wasn't just he could play a lot of different things.
Actually, no. And I had asked him. I said, "Dad, you ever play the guitar?" He goes, "No, I'm all thumbs on the guitar." I was like, "Come on!" He goes, "Watch." And he literally was
funny.
like, "Ooh." It was
Yeah.
hilarious, right? No, piano is his instrument. He did play the clarinet for a little while, but he didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What brought him to Los Angeles? Just touring, or like what made him stay in LA? Because he's from Houston, right? Originally.
Yeah, from Houston, and they were working as a band, in that sort of region of the South, but they knew that the work was out in Los Angeles at the time.
The Crusaders formed in Houston, or where did they form?
They formed in Houston, so they formed basically in high school.
Yeah.
And then I think it was TS. They kind of formed in high school, right? And it wasn't until they were in TSU that they actually take it more serious.
Yeah.
They were getting paid.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually Hollywood was the place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he meets your mom, and how long until you come around?
I think they were together about 4 or 5 years before I came around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that your grandparents' house was kind of the hub of, people coming around and music and family. Was your house like that in Los Angeles? Because you also said your mom was a bit of a socialite. So I can only imagine the kind of parties that you partook in as a child.
It was to a degree. Yes, they threw a lot of parties. And especially at the house in Mammoth. Like it was a big log cabin with multiple rooms, and bunk beds. So sure, we would have 4 families in there, for the full Christmas vacation or something.
Yeah.
And that was, now that I think about it, I remember my first kiss was in Mammoth. And it was this girl, Charlene. I was 12, and we had like a loft where we would play, and she leaned over and kissed me, and it was like, I'll never forget it. It was like a movie, it was like what's that wonderful movie? Dan Aykroyd, and then
My Girl.
My Girl. It was that.
Why
whole
do
thing.
I know these things?
It was that kind of slow lean, and
Yeah.
Nick was a handsome kid. All the girls like Nick. I'm telling you. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And so I'm assuming there was always music playing in the house, right?
There was always music. And once I was more curious, I just started putting records on. Because we just had, TV. We didn't really have, video games wasn't really a big thing.
Yeah.
We were, I was outside a lot too. But music was always being played. Yeah. And, Pops would always come, at the time when like CDs first came out, we were still young. We were in Beverly Hills. He would come back with some limited editions from Japan, right? So, and the trick with the Japanese CDs, because they were really expensive over there, the artist had to add an additional 2, maybe 3 songs, right? More than the actual like US and European version. So you were very intrigued by, the
extra.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so how old are you when you start to pick up the bass?
I picked it up. So I was 15. I was playing piano before that.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing at 7. I stopped around 9. I pick it back up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um,
Was there a push from your dad at all, or was it all just kind of organic?
that was organic. They just wanted me to, like, it's good to learn a musical instrument. It's good for the brain, that kind of thing. But I wanted to play the bass. Well, first I asked if I could play drums, and that was like, no, you're not going to do that.
I have a drummer.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah,
Is it?
they're in the garage. He's
Okay.
good. It's hard. Yeah. I'm like like most parents, you pick an instrument and a language because it's good for their brain, but getting them to stick to something without squashing it out of them is hard, right? So you got to really love it. He's 11. He's going to be 12, but he'll go in there every once in a while, pick up the drums and just have a little jam session. And then you're like, that's what it's for, right? You just start jamming and then you're like, and then a girl gets a crush on a drummer and off to the races you are.
Yes.
So 15 was when the instrument kind of intrigues stuck more.
I picked up the bass and I always dug the bass. Now, when it's interesting, so I have a music company focuses on what I know best, jazz, funk, and blues, right? And sort of that to me is sort of the mirepoix of all music. Without jazz, funk, and blues, we wouldn't even have hip hop or even all the pop
Nothing
today. But
or rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And so everyone's appreciation of music is different. Everyone listens to music in some personalized manner. For me, I was not a huge lyricist. Like, I didn't chase the lyrics down. Some people just only memorize the lyrics. They don't listen to the harmony or the chords or the rhythm or
I'm like you.
So I was into the groove, into the funk, into the beat of it. And bass was just the obvious answer.
Which is interesting just because the Crusaders were not a very, other than Street Life, I don't think there's a lot of lyrics for their albums and stuff.
Yeah, they so Street Life was the first vocal song in the repertoire. So they were, strictly instrumental, and that was very standard. There was a lot of instrumental.
But it sounds like that had an impact on you because you're definitely saying that you're not that lyrics are not the driving factor for you.
They're not the driving factor. I appreciate them more now as you mature, but another thing I've learned in this book, the producer of the Crusaders, he's Stuart Levine. So he was the guy who really found that he moved their sound from just a jazz quartet into more of that electric fusion, right?
Yep.
Took him out of that acoustic side and put him into the electric side. And they did some wonderful records. He's the George Martin of the Beatles.
Yeah. And it was your dad and Styx Hooper, and who were the other guys?
Wilton Felder and Wayne Henderson.
Okay.
They were the 4 main founding members. And then they always they were in and out of bass players and guitarists. And when they did Street Life, Stuart Levine says, man, this is a wonderful song, but don't put it on a Crusaders record. Just put it on the Randy Crawford record. If you put it on a Crusaders record, you will be chasing the next best vocal song forever. And you guys are not a vocal band, right? So you're constantly trying to capture that Street Life.
Different audience. Yeah.
And so, and that's the truth, right? They've worked with Tina Turner. That it was a great song, but it didn't have that Street Life stature. They work with Bobby Womack. They work with what's his name? Lovely Day.
Bill Withers.
Bill Withers.
Yeah.
Bill Withers.
Yeah. Joe Cocker.
Joe Cocker.
They brought back Joe Cocker's career. B.B. King. They did 3 of his records. So, I mean, not saying that they are slouched of songs, but the impact that it had globally never reached the Street Life level.
Yeah, Street Life's a great song. I have the gold record.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Mentioned though, like talking about the groove, because I actually I always make jokes about music. I'm all about the outros and the groove and like something you can sit in, like when it's meaty and you're just like, I just want to live in that little space where there's all this like stuff that's going on. And I love songs that change and take you on a journey. One of my favorite bands is kind of, I'd say new jazz-ish, Hiatus Coyote, and a big Yusef Dayes fan who's a drummer. So I love, like, you're in my world. Like, I don't know jazz, but I love just groove. And I actually work in publishing, which is funny because it's all about the songwriting. And I, as a songwriter myself, I was always moved by the groove before what the song had a meaning about or what the lyrics were, you know? So when you said that, I'm like, totally. Like, that's where I love when you hear the instruments talking to each other. Like, that is fascinating to me. So I'm with you.
It's you know, that is the tension and release, right?
Yeah.
And that's the importance of the you know, when we hear music, it has an effect on not only your atoms, because it's it's energy, it's
energy, yeah,
it's moved, but it will control your sort of where you are in that moment, right? And that's why it's a very present type of product, you know. And but the effect of music that way with the frequency, it takes a while for that, you know, it takes over 2 minutes for it to actually start to move something in your body. And they say that, like with TikTok and all these short little beats, we become so sort of conditioned for that, you know, next hit, only to sort of provide a dopamine effect that's large enough to fill a 3-minute scene, right? It's really interesting. But there is a beauty with Yusef Dayes and the Hiatus Coyote. Music does evolve, right? Our world evolves, our appreciation evolves. And that's my whole approach, and what I'm looking to preserve is that music, the evolution of music, can be found in this space called Holican.io, which is my company, and providing space for jazz, funk, and blues, and people who are toying with it and understand it, they could you know, keep going, because it's necessary. We need it for the future generations.
I love hearing Nick talk about music because you're talking about it in such a profound way, and it's like it's having an impact on me. But Jess is like, of all the people that I know, you have such a profound knowledge of music and bands. So it's kind of fun to hear the two of you talk.
Music people nerd out on each other.
I love it.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, back when CDs were actually in existence, and I would gatekeep because I'm like, I had that CD 2 years before anybody knew about Jamiroquai, you know, that kind of shit. But I love geeking out
in the back of your car.
Oh, I missed that book.
Yeah,
by the way, I still have them all, and they're organized kind of by genre.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that I was listening to in the early 2000s was instrumental music, because I do love listening to the musicality, or whether it's production. Like I was really into drum and bass, because I loved listening to anything where where you can hear the musicianship and you can hear the instruments or the ideas play off of each other without any vocals. There's something about that for me. It's not for everyone. Some people think it's boring, or like my kid the other day was like, this sounds like elevator music. I'm like,
everyone has a personalized attraction to music somehow.
Yeah.
Whether
and everybody's vibration.
Active, and whether it's super active or it's someone who's a passive listener, like, hey, Google, just play some jazz. And they don't care who it is. They just want to hear something jazzy, and they go on their way, right? So there's this level of how active or how passive you are to music.
It's also seeing anybody play jazz live, like real musicians get in a room and watching them riff is probably the most fascinating and entertaining thing I've ever seen. And I actually was very lucky to be up in Toronto years ago. And Victor Duplay was there, who is a big DJ producer. And G Love, this is when I was working with some singer songwriter producer types up there. G Love was there doing sessions, and it was this small club in Toronto. And Toronto has such an amazing music scene because it's like just, I felt like LA was slightly segregated with their music scene, and Toronto was very unified. Like you'd go into a club and there'd be like, you know, a punk rock singer with a sitar player and a saxophonist, and they'd be jamming. It would just be like, let's just throw some stuff together. And watching people create, it's like watching somebody sculpt something. And when you're in the presence of that, which you've been obviously your whole career and growing up in it, it does something to you. You know, like even listening to you speak, you're so thoughtfully eloquent. I mean, so that's all.
Well, it's,
I didn't have a point. I just wanted to say all that.
That's why I'm focusing on those active listeners, because they're there, right? It may not be the masses, like the mass amount of people. However, it doesn't have to be. And to provide another destination, another resource for people who love music and want to appreciate it even more than just play some jazz Google. There need, you know, Holican.io is a place where they could come to. And I'm just building it.
Yeah, tell us what it is, because I'm curious now. Tell us more about this.
Well, so it started as, the reason why we moved to Berlin, because I got into immersive theater, right? And my dad being Creole, and the two of us producing this Creole record that he called Creole Joe. It wasn't about him, actually, Creole Joe, but you know, whenever I would go to Houston, it was like a festival, even at the house. They would cook grandma's dishes, all these Creole dishes, gumbo and smothered pork chops and fried chicken or barbecue, and the music would be on, right? And there'll be blues. It'll start with some Zydeco, then it'll go into blues, then it went into funk, right? All through the night. And that was just a standard, like, hey, Nick's in town, let's hang out, right? And that experience is what everyone, whenever we tell that story, people are like, I want to be there. I want to, have a taste of that. Even if they, because a lot of people just can't go to New Orleans. And a lot of people we would tell the story were in Europe. So Pops passed away. The Creole Joe record was released, but I wasn't prepared to take an 8-piece band out on the road and try and wave the flag and get people interested. So my wife and I, we created this immersive theater show. We were living in New York at the time. Came across a director who's, theatrical director, immersive specialist, if you will. Have you heard of Sleep No More? It's a pretty popular immersive event in Manhattan. It's been going on for a long time. Anyway, it was quite impressive. Immersive means that you're not sitting in a seat and watching it from watching the stage. You're actually involved in the entire performance of everything. We go to Berlin. We put on this mini Mardi Gras swamp full moon party in a circus tent near the zoo in Berlin, right? And we're there for a month. And it's just a party. We have Creole food. People are dancing around. And as we mentioned earlier, how music affects the body. Germans are wallflowers in the beginning, right? Yeah, okay. They have a couple beers, and then when you say, "Hey, we're going to teach you how to dance," they're not shy anymore. They've had a couple beers in. They're on the dance floor learning how to do the two-step. And then it's a fest. They have a handkerchief and they're waving it in the air, and we do this. We did this every night, 5 nights a week. Proof of concept was proven that it's viable. People like it. And then we had to stop. We moved to Sweden. We were preparing for the second run with everything that we've learned. Our business partner was prepared to inject a little more capital to continue to keep it going. And pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, okay, we can't have a intimate theater performance. Now what do we do? So took a pivot to instead of trying to build momentum for the immersive show again, I decided that this marketplace is a better place. So we took e-commerce sensibilities. We even looked into, blockchain as a distribution system, and created a marketplace for jazz, funk, and blues.
Mm-hmm.
It's evolved here and there. It's called Holican.io. You can see, and now it's been. So we started doing this at the end of the pandemic. We've been building this. How long have we been building this? 3 years now. With interviews and surveys and whatnot, we realized that music fans, they want more. So every time they would give us, 30 minutes of their time to tell us what they like, they just said, Nick, this is a lovely concept, but you have to provide us more information. We will stick around if you give us more stories, give us more videos, give us music. And we recognize right there, all right, music is spread across too many platforms, right? You get your music on this end at Spotify, then you could, maybe at the artist's website, you buy CDs here, or it's not in one mall, right, if you will, or one store.
Yeah, yeah.
So with that said, we created these channels for artists where they could express who they are, share little fun stories, share their music, share a video, all in one place. So now the potential fan or the actual fan can spend a little time and learn a little more about that artist, get a little more inspired by actually purchasing the music, right? And then they feel that they, converting someone to sales, it takes a long time, right?
Yeah.
But providing not a good enough reason, but enough reason for them to say, oh, I like this, I appreciate this, I want to support this, right? That's when someone decides to buy. And these elements were, we realize, are the right elements. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of an ecosystem, if you will, not just music, not just songs for sale. It's guitarists who could sell their guitars. It's actual, you could buy tickets for a concert. You could watch videos, live stream videos, everything involved in the sphere of culture and storytelling is presented here at Holican.
But mostly for musicians or for?
So a lot of the music sites are strictly focused for musicians, right? They give them the tools just for musicians. And that's our intention, is to provide artists the tools to reach the fans and convert them for sales. But it's really for the fans. It's really for them to come and spend time on the site and be the active listener that they want to be.
Do you have like anybody that we'd know that's like utilizing the site?
Well, we have a Joe Sample channel, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. So it has all of his.
So we have stories there. We have playlists that are on Spotify, but I also, I use it for a channel, if you will. So basically, look, websites are great. We're sort of supplementing the website with the channel on Holican. And I do some all-star tribute to Joe Sample performances. I just started that this year. So I use the Joe Sample channel on Holican.io as a destination for people to come to. If they want to get a t-shirt, they could find the street style t-shirt there. they could read a little more stories. There's a recipe from grandma there. You know, there's a lot more
It,
in depth
yeah, more personalized
or
type of fan
personalized.
engagement. Yeah, that's great. So you've been working on that for the past 6 years.
I've been working on it, and it's, you know,
Yeah.
you can't find it that easy when you're starting it, but all of a sudden the answers come, and now we're doing a podcast as well. We're going to start
Great.
interviewing artists to learn more about, look, why are you in music? Like, what's the point, and who are you with music or without music, and you know, have a general conversation, because fans, if they're interested, they want to learn more. They instantly want to learn more, and they could learn
So
more
true.
on a channel on Holican.
I mean, to that, my son, again, he's into music, discovered on his own the gorillas and
Nice.
went down the gorilla rabbit hole on, because the kids now, they're not even listening on any of the stuff that we listen on. They're listening in Fortnite and on YouTube. Like
Yeah.
they and like watching the videos on Spotify. So he has discovered quite a few bands that he likes. And the other day he starts, and I about died because it's like my favorite artist ever. He starts singing Smooth Operator. And I look at him and I'm like, I'm sorry, how the hell do you know that song? I mean, aside from me. And he goes, oh, it's in one of my games. And I'm like, wait, what? So the way that people are interacting with music is totally different these days. The way these kids are, I mean, you said you have a couple kids that are high school, older.
Yeah, 16 and 18, yeah.
Yeah. So, but like the way that they interact with music is so different than how we interacted with it. Ours was tactile. Ours was, you know, generated by albums and cassettes and mixtapes and CDs and liner notes. Oh,
Yeah.
I miss liner notes. Now it's Instagram pages, your platform, SoundCloud, like all these different arenas where they're engaging with they're finding artists that they like, and there's one-on-one real engagement happening, right? You go to an artist page, you say you like their stuff, they can go, thank you so much, it means the world to me. You know, it's really interesting though what's happening. It sounds like you kind of got on this bandwagon early too, so that's great. Like just realizing there's more to sharing music and how to do it.
You know, we learned something. Reddit has a massive music, you know, dialogue
Subculture,
conversation.
yeah.
I mean, which I had no idea about until I was invited there, and that's, you know, we took elements of Patreon, Pinterest, Reddit, Spotify, and only because, and YouTube, because we can embed those videos. We can embed the playlist, which is great.
I'm super interested to know, just because you guys both touched on kids. Are your kids musicians, Nick?
No. However, they do like to play piano.
Mm-hmm.
They want to learn how to play guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest, I did not push them or, you know, hey kids, it was a rough journey playing music. It's been an amazing journey, but I felt it had to be more natural on their
Let's
end.
talk a little bit more about your journey, because I wanted to touch on it, but we talked about the website, which I wanted to talk about. But after high school, you were playing around in bands, and I just wanted to just give a little bit more about your background as yourself as a musician.
Well, it's what's interesting. You know, I went through the bands, the Hollywood bands. We had some record contracts. I've made records. I've played on some other people's records or written some songs. Nothing that had massive success. Enough decent success has been, you know, attributed from it. But my career, I was an apprentice to a lot of legendary people. Like there's a producer named Richard Perry who passed away a couple months ago. He produced Nilsson, Schmilsson, all those early records. Barbra Streisand, Ringo Starr. He was the one producer who Rod Stewart. I worked on Rod Stewart's records. I worked, of course, with my father, Joe Sample, Ray Parker Jr., Ghostbusters,
Oh yeah.
Engelbert Humperdinck for
Yeah.
a while,
Yeah.
which was wild, which actually was a great learning. His Las Vegas style was a great sort of production, style and production for, live performance and the way you
Mhm.
design a show. And then Steve Tyrell as well. So I worked with a lot of old school cats, and it probably was one of the best things for me because I learned the general fundamentals and basics of that skill, the art of music and performance and playing. And so that's what has led me to where I am today. And I've made I acted as an engineer, Pro Tools engineer, worked on Rod Stewart's records and some other Engelbert's records and some other people. But I decided, so there was a decision to be like a music producer, really learn how to be a music producer engineer, or go back on the road. And I ended up going back on the road, learning from my father, and did about 12 years of working with him, which is
Oh wow.
like the best music education I could ever receive, because he really whooped me into shape. He wasn't being nice. Even on stage, he would, sort of discipline me, like, well, my son doesn't quite get it, right? On stage, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, that's fine. I would take it because I told him, I said, I'm not learning anything. I'm playing these clubs in LA and we have these record deals, but I'm still not like learning anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, he took me.
What amazing shared experience to have now, especially that your dad's not with us anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's allowed me to understand, where to lay the importance, where you learn how to hear. You can listen to music, but are you really hearing it, right?
Yeah.
When you're on stage with people, you could tell those musicians they turn it on from the first note they play to the last note they play. Like a whole hour or hour and a half of a show. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you don't turn it on during sound check, then, you're getting a little whooping there. And if, like, as Engelbert Humperdinck would do, the moment you start slacking on stage, he's like, you're out of here.
Yeah.
Because he was giving a performance, again, from note one to note N. If you're not doing the same thing as he is, there's no reason for you to be on the stage, right? You have to take music seriously and the performance of it seriously. Because otherwise, why would people come to the show?
Totally. I agree with that.
What an amazing time with Nick, huh? I mean,
I love talking any goofy music and feelings and all that stuff. But that's so true. And it's what a gift to be able to do that with your dad for a while, even if he was, being slightly more.
Yeah, no, he was harsh, but at the same time, it was amazing too. I mean, I learned a lot, and you could only, those type of lessons you have to learn through time, right?
Yeah.
There's no textbook. All right, today we're going to learn this one, this lesson. It's just kind of.
But you said something. You also instigated it by saying, I'm not learning anymore. I'm not learning anything. And I think that is something comes with wisdom, comes with age, because at 16, you think you know everything and you're playing a musician in a band. You're like, oh, this is cool. And then
at
as
16,
you go,
Dad, what's up?
Totally. I made it already, And then once you become an adult, you're like, oh, wow, I could have, like, now I get it. Now I get what this journey is that I'm on. Now I understand that this is something that I have a passion for and I want to do and I want to learn and I'm interested in it. So that's just a beautiful thing that you got to at least experience having your dad
Yeah.
as your mentor in a way.
I mean,
You
I didn't
know?
start working with until mid-30s, right? So I
Yeah.
did this whole experience prior to that. It's
It's
been wonderful. I'm grateful for the entire experience, and I'm grateful that I have it in order to back up what I'm doing now.
I'm excited for the book. I can't wait for you to finish the book.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's exciting.
I still have a few more interviews. Marcus Miller is next. But I have Layla Hathaway. I mean, I've got such a wonderful collection of interviews already.
Well, Jess,
I love that.
we learned a lot today, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm super goofy. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk more about music and other things that you are listening to that I might like. And I have all these other, when you meet people like that, it's kind of fun to
I'm
trade
telling
off.
you are when I need music info, you're who I go to. So
I'm a nerd.
it's nice to hear the two of you talking together because of Nick's wealth of knowledge of music and his background. Tell us the name of the site one more time.
It's holican.io. So HOLICAN.io.
.io.
And it is the names of our children's together. So our daughter's name is Holiday. Our son's name is Cannon.
Oh, that's awesome. I know a Holiday.
I
It's a
love
rare
that.
name, but it's a great name.
I love that
Yeah.
name, Holiday. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
a great name.
And definitely,
well-
please tell your mom that I say hello.
I will.
Yeah.
I talk to her almost every day. She moved
Yeah.
back to Sweden,
Yeah,
to Stockholm. So she misses me.
I bet.
Her timing on it was good.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Jeez.
I mean,
Well, thank you. Sorry. I know we can go down that rabbit hole offline, but that's, Dan doesn't like when I go down that rabbit hole.
you guys, you guys both have very similar backgrounds. You both come from, musician fathers, and it's very
European mothers.
Yeah, European mothers. Very similar.
Are you an only child as well?
I'm an only child, yes.
Yeah.
Me
Very
too.
similar.
Yeah.
Jessica's dad was in the Grassroots. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Warren,
I did not know that. I don't know any song, but I don't know my dad.
What are you working on, Jessica?
Well, I work at Warner. We can cut all this out.
Yeah.
Let me wrap it up and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode. I hope you learned as much as I did. And you can check out Holican, is that how I say it?
Yes.
Holican.io, HOLICAN, and check out Nick's new project that he's been working on. It's a marketplace for musicians and gives you a little bit more in-depth look at who they are. So check it out when you can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, tell your family, and we will be with you again soon in the near future. Hasta la vista.